2 of the UBD is just going to be going over determining acceptable evidence of understanding. So in this section, we are simply having our students prove what they know. So this is going way beyond them just recalling information and going into explaining and proving that they have a deeper understanding, that they have achieved meaning making and transfer goals. So I'm just going to go on ahead and scroll down so you can see the next section, which is going to be performance tasks. So it does say at the top that you can refer to Module G and J for this section as a reference in the textbook. So in this section, we will be going over 3 columns. So first, as educators, we'll have to ask the question, what do we want our students to do to show that they have achieved mastery of knowing what we've put in stage 1? What specific tasks prove that they know what we want them to know, and what can they show that they do well? And then what assessments will show that they have met the desired goals? Next, we need to figure out how can we say that they've met the goal. We need to set criteria so we can say that they've achieved those successfully. So that essentially what stage 2 sets. So the first section is just placing our desired results codes. So this is still linking our stage 2 to our stage 1 transfer goals and meaning goals. So you're just going to be taking those above codes and then plugging them down here as you're creating your performance tasks. So the performance tasks are what we're asking the students to do to show that they've achieved these goals. So when you are creating these, you want to make open-ended performance assessments so they can show you what they could do. So this should come exactly from the stage 1, not from the task. And then also this should be authentic. So this should be a real world example. It should be realistic, and it also should be unpredictable for the student. So this should be able to allow them to show creativity, but also show that they can pull that information and use it in a constructive way to use that knowledge. And that's essentially for them to transfer it to a real world situation where the teacher isn't helping them. They're able to process that information. As an educator, we're going to be able to evaluate their performance through the evaluative criteria. So we want to select a couple of criteria pieces so we can judge if they've achieved those goals. So we want to select about 3 to 6 independent criteria for judging. And also we want to consider a couple of things. Could the criteria be met but the overall performance not achieved? Or could the criteria be met and the performance not assessed well? So if either of those questions are answered yes, that just means that you need to reassess this entire section of your UBD. So as you're creating these, you just want to make sure that they are still in alignment with stage 1 and that your performance tasks are still relevant. As I'm scrolling down, I'm going to the next section that is just providing other evidence. So in addition to your performance tasks, this is another area to plug in a few assessments where your other knowledge, skills, standards, and other goals weren't given an opportunity to show that they've been met in the performance task. So it's the same idea that you would be putting those desired results codes in that left-handed section and then providing a example or another assessment. And this can be a series of different assessments that can be given relevant to the course that you are doing and relevant to the task or the knowledge component that needs to be done or the skill. So I have online quizzing as an example, and still will need criteria to evaluate if the student successfully achieved those desired results. So those are listed as well. Now, scrolling toward the bottom, we do have our grading rubric. This is just showing the level of competency for the student if they have achieved mastery on a certain section, or if they need improvement. So this is going to help your student to provide feedback. There are two types of rubrics. You can either do a holistic or an analytic rubric. This is an example of an analytic rubric, and this is like a grading system, and it is giving a idea from exemplary to no evidence scale for each criteria that is given. So you see it's the same example, analyzing and explaining active patient spreadsheet, and we have the criteria listed as accuracy, clear explanation, appropriate use of portals, and efficiency. In each row I have those criterias, and then it's just explaining what needs to be met to reach each section. So as I have students completing tasks, this is what I'll use to grade those sections, and I'll create additional rubrics as needed for those tasks. And that ends section 2 or stage 2 for the UBD. This can be looked at, and you can refer back to the book for additional instructions and charts. We do have a couple of materials that is in the book that is helpful when you are creating your stage 2 design. The acronym GRASPS is in there, and this is helping for a means to make more authentic amplification for understanding. So be sure to look at that for a helpful tool when you are working on stage 2.